The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain Longman Simplified English Series Read by อัชราบุญเลิศ
Chapter 26 Lost in the Cave. Now to return the share of Tom and Becky in the picnics. They danced along the passage with the rest of the children, visiting the familiar wonders of the cave, such as Aladdin's palace and the castle hill. When the game of hide and seek began, Tom and Becky played until they lost interest in it. Then they wandered down winding passage, holding their candles up and reading the network of names, dates, and address done in candle smoke on the rocky walls. They went on, smoked their own names under an overhanging shelf, and proceeded. Presently, they came to a place where a little stream of water had throughout out the centuries formed a filmy waterfall in sparkly stone. Tom placed his small body behind in it to light it up for Becky, and found that it hid a sort of sleep, natural stairway and close between narrow walls. At once the ambition to be a discord seized him. They made a small mark for future guidance, and would his way, and that far down into the depths of the cave. In one place they found a white hole, from the roof of which hung a great number of the shining white pillars of stone. After wondering and admiring, they left it by one of the numerous passages that opened into it. This sun brought them to a lovely spring, and this basin of which seemed to be decorated with sparkling diamonds. It was in the midst of a cave where great columns rose from the floor to meet hoods from the roof. Some had already joined. The children marveled at his resolve of the castless water drip of centuries under the roof base had packed themselves together, hundreds in a bunch, and they came flocking down in hundreds, dashing furiously at the cannons. Tom seized Becky's hand and hurried her into the third passage. They came to, and by turning into every new passage they at last got rid of the troublesome creatures. Then Tom found an underground lake which stretched away until its shape was lost in the shadows. He wanted to explore its borders, but decided that it would be best to sit down and rest for a time. Now, for the first time, the stillness of the place laid its damp and cold hand upon the minds of the children. I wonder how long We're been down here, Tom, said Becky. We'd better go back. Yes, I think we're better. Can you find the way, Tom? It's all mixed up to me. I think I can find it, but the bags, if they put out both our cannons, we'll be in an awful difficulty. Let's try some other way. They started off along a passage, looking at each new opening to see if there was anything familiar about it. But they were all strange. Oh, Tom, never mind the bars, said Becky at last. Let's go back that way. We seem to get worse and worse all the time. Tom stopped. Listen, said he. The silence was so deep that even their own breathing seemed loud. Tom shouted. The shout went echoing down the empty evilness and died out in the distance in a fierce sound that was just like smoking laughter. Oh, don't do it again, Tom. It's too horrid, said Becky. It is horrid, but I better, Becky. They might hear us, you know. And he shouted again. The mine was even a stranger horror than the ghostly laughter. It confused. The hope was dying. They listened, but there was no result. Tom turned back, but soon a certain indecision in his manner revealed another fearful threat to Becky. He could not find his way back. Oh, Tom, you didn't make any marks. Becky, I was a fool. No, I can't find the way. It's all mixed up. Tom, we're lost. We're lost. We can never got out of his awful place. Oh, why did we leave the others? He sucked to the group and burst into such a dreadful storm of tears that Tom feared that he might submit. When her weeping became a little less violent, he begged her not to give up hope. Then he began blaming himself. He told him not to talk like that again, for she was as much to blame as he was, he said. So they moved on. Aimlessly, for all they could do was to keep moving. After a time, Tom took Becky's cannon and blew it out. Words were not needed. She knew that Tom had a wall cannon and 3 or 4 pieces in his pocket. Young, yet he must use as little as possible. Then the children began to feel weary, but they tried to pay no attention. Moving was at least progress and might have a good result, but to sit down was to invite curtain death. At last Becky's weak lamps refused to carry her any farther. They sat down. They talked of home, of the friends there, and above all, of the sunlight. Weariness weighed so heavily on Becky that he fell asleep, and Tom was strengthful. He sat lost in thought of heavier times. When Becky woke up, she gave a gay little laugh, but she stopped into suddenly, and a groan followed. "Oh, how could I sleep? I wish I had never woke. No, no, Tom, I didn't look so. I wanted said that again." They rose and wandered along, hand in hand and hopeless. A long time after his Tom said that they must go quietly and listen of dripping water, because they must find a spring. They found once, and Tom said that they must rest again. Both were cruelly tried, yet Becky thought that she could go on a little farther. He was surprised to hear Tom disagree. Nothing was said for some time. Then Becky broke the silence. "Tom, I am so hungry." Tom took a big cake from his pocket and divided it, and Becky ate with good appetite. Tom pretended to eat his share. There was an abundance of cold water with which to finish the food. Soon Becky suggested that they should move on again. Tom was silent, and then he said, "Becky, we must stay here, where there's water to drink. This little piece of candle is our last." Becky cried again. "And lunch," he said. "Tom." "Well, Becky, they'll miss us and search for us. Harper's, they're searching for us now." "Why, of course they are." "When would they miss us, Tom?" "When they got back to the boat, I suppose." "Tom, it might have been dark then. Would they notice that we hadn't come?" I don't know. Anyway, your mother would miss yours as soon as they all got home." A frightened look in Becky's face made Tom remember she was not to have gone home that night. The Sunday morning might be half spent before Mr. Thatcher discovered that Becky was not at Mr. Harper's. In a moment, a new burst of grief from Becky showed Tom that the thought in his mind had struck his also. The children fastened their eyes upon the bit of candle and watched it melt slowly and pitilessly away. They saw the little flame rise and fall, rise and fall, and then suddenly the horror of utter darkness enveloped them. How long afterwards it was that Becky woke to find herself crying in Tom's arms? Neither could tell. Tom said that it might be Sunday or Harper's Monday. The house graveled by, and again the cabby felt with hunger. Tom's share of the cake was divided and eaten, but it seemed to leave them hungrier than before. Presently, Tom said, "Did you hear that?" Both held their breath and listened. There was a sound like the fearless, far-off shout. Instantly, Tom answered it. Again its sound was heard, and apparently a little nearer. "There's Come along, Becky. We're all right now." The joy of the prisoners was almost unbearable. Their speed was slow, however, because peace were rather common and had to be guarded against. They soon came to one. Tom lay flat and reached down, but he could not touch the bottom. It might be 3 feet deep. It might be 100. They must stay here until the searchers came. They listened. The distant shoutings were growing more distant. A moment or two more, and they had gone altogether. The heart-breaking misery of it. Tom shouted until his throat ached, but it was of no use. He talked hopefully to Becky, but a long time passed, and no sound came. The children left their way back to the spring. The time dragged on. They slept again, and woke hungry and miserable. Now, Tom had an idea. It would be better to explore some of the side passage than to remain idle. He took his kite string from his pocket, tied one end to a big stone, and started with Becky, unwinding the line as they crawled along. At the end of 20 steps, the passage ended in a pit. Tom left below and then as far round the corner as he could. At that moment a head, holding a candle, appeared from behind a rock. Tom gave a glad shout, and instantly that hand was followed by the body. It belonged to Redskin Joe's. Tom was turned to stone. To his immense relief, the Spaniard's flesh. Tom told Becky that he had only shouted for luck, and they scraped back to the spring. But hunger and misery after a time marked. One forget one's fears. Another wearisome wait, and another long sleep brought change. The children awoke sick with hunger. Tom believed that it must be Wednesday or Thursday or even Friday on Saturday now. He proposed to explore another passage. He left willing to Redskin Joe and all other tourists, but Becky was so weak that he could not be roused. He said that he could wait now, where he was, and died. It would not be long. She told Tom to explore if he chose, but he begged him to come back from time to time and speak to her. She made him promise that when her last hour came, he would stay by her and hold her hand until all was over, with a lamp in his throat. Tom pretended to be confident of finding the searchers or a way out of the cave, and with the kite string in his hand went crawling down one of the paths, sick with hunger and sorrow and visions of their coming fate.